You've just finished the Pentagon Crazy recipe. We're going to go over it one more time, just to check up on some of the concepts we learned. Let's start with line 1. We're going to turn the tortoise 360 divided by 5 degrees. Great, we can delete line 1. Now, before we move forward, let's go over the if one more time. Ifs are conditionals, which means they check whether a condition is true and return a value if it is. They look like this. The if in the English gets translated to if, and tortoise.getPenWith is greater than 3 is the translation of is greater than 3. The brackets hold whatever the if is going to do if the tortoise.getPenWith is greater than 3. Let's go back to the code. Let's translate line 2. It says do the following 200 times, so we're going to need a for loop. Now, instead of stop, let's say 200. And let's move that bracket down so it surrounds what we're looking for, which is on line 35. Let's run that. Great, we can delete that line using Control-D. We can also delete the repeat because we've translated it with the bracket. Line 3 says make the tortoise move as fast as possible. So we're going to set its speed to 10. That works. We can delete that line. Line 4 has 2 parts. The first part says, move the tortoise the length of a side. We can move the tortoise, but the length of the side is going to be tricky. For now, let's just say something like 10. We can't delete that line because it's faked. Let's go up to 4.2. It's asking us to make a variable called length. So let's type length equals I and press a semicolon. Now, Java doesn't know what we're talking about with this weird length thing, so it's offering us options. Let's create the local variable length. Great. Now we can replace the 10 in move 10 with length. Let's run that. Cool. Now we can delete both lines 4.1 and 2. Line 5 says to turn the tortoise 1 more degree. Wow, hypnotic. We can delete line 5. Line 6 says to change the color of the line the tortoise draws to the next color on the color wheel. We can do this with tortoise set pen color, but the next part is more tricky. Now, to set it to the next color on the color wheel, we're going to need to use the color wheel. Let's put a dot and say get next color. That should work, right? Whoa, what's that? This is an exception. It happens when your code should work, but something's a little off. Exceptions are events which throw errors. They look like this. There are 2 parts. The actual exception is up top. It's telling you where to look. The error message is also important. For this exception, it says, your color wheel is empty and we can't find any colors to use. Even though we translated line 6, it's not working, so we can't delete it. Let's translate line 7. It says, add steel blue to the color wheel. So that tells us we're going to need color wheel. Now what's going to add a color? That's right, add color. However, we need to look at the documentation for add color so we know what to do later on. Great. When we run this, the exception should no longer come up. And we can delete lines 6 and 7. Let's translate line 8. There are 3 line 8s, which probably means we're creating a method. Let's highlight from the top line 8 to the bottom line 8. Now let's right-click and extract method. If we run this, it should do the same thing. Now that we've got line 8 done, let's translate line 9. Line 9 is also in 3 parts, so let's extract it as a method. If we run this, it should do the same thing. And now we can delete all the line 9s. Line 10 is still in 3 parts, so let's extract it one more time. And again, that should do the same thing. Now, you might be wondering why we're extracting all these methods. It makes things easier to change later on. Now that we've done extracting all those methods, we can whip through the colors. They're just like the line before it, but with different colors. You might be wondering why we ran it after each time. That's because good programmers run after every line, just to make sure their changes didn't mess anything up. Alright, let's go to line 15. This is going to involve the tortoise setting the pen width. That was the easy part. The increasing it by 1 is tricky. So, we're going to need to take the tortoise's original pen width and add 1. Whoa, that's crazy. However, it is translated, so we can delete that line. Line 16 says to set the pen width back to 1. Great, we can delete line 16. 17 brings us to an if. So the English says, if the tortoise's pen width is greater than 4. So we need to take what the tortoise has as its pen width now and check if it's greater than 4. Now all we need to do is move the line below into the brackets using Alt-Up. And there you have it, the angular nuanced pentagon. Now we can delete line 17. And we finished up. Thanks for watching. If you have any more questions, go to teachingkidsprogramming.org.